attachment is one of those examples in this unit where you were thinking, why do we need to do attachment? And because it's not really in this particular part of the course, but I think it's valuable because if you're looking at stress and health, insecure attachment is a potential stressor, but also, prevalence of health problems. Why this is relevant for that? Because why has opioid addiction increased? Interestingly, some studies suggest insecure attachments on the increase, so it's relevant to that. And also, though, if you spread out these topics along the course, it gives students more of a chance to rehearse them periodically rather than just doing attachment in, say, human development. Okay, so what is attachment? What are the secure, insecure styles? And why is insecure a risk for addiction? There's a Quizlet Live, or you could do the quizzes if you didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. Some focus questions in the workbook, some good facts there on the science of addiction. Okay, we'll go through the answers. All right, now, trying to think of ways to phrase this sensitively, but just want to throw out to students, who's to blame for your addiction? You, or is it beyond your control? And, teenagers have some pretty opinionated views here, I think. I want to show this clip, and it's a pretty tough watch. This is a clip on the...
I used to say, if I hear...
oh no, it's maybe not this one. But that's a clip of neglect, the brain, and how that creates a risk for addiction. And so the idea being here, well, if you're a risk for addiction because of your brain, and your brain is shaped by forces you can't control, then, now blame might not be the right word, but it's just trying to develop that understanding for students, maybe, but empathy, and we did the same thing in criminology. Okay, and this is a little bit of talk chalk. Okay, and so this leads into today's idea of attachment, right? So if you have an insecure attachment, this is kind of the product of what happened to you as a child in your relationship with your parents, and it's kind of beyond your control. Put John Bowlby, there's some good ones online. I couldn't get the permission to use them. Quoting Bowlby's theory, good context for John B. Watson, because he was a reaction to this, and I think it's a fascinating quote there about parenting advice from John B. Watson. So introduce attachment theory, explain secure versus insecure, and then kind of a bit of a memory test. Okay, so what were you listening? Write these down. Just see what words really stick in describing secure and insecure attachment, because it just to have a few key adjectives, high trust, low trust, etc. It can really help, because otherwise it's quite hard to put it into words, the difference between secure and insecure attachment. Okay, so some more like, how do we measure it? We're not getting into the strange situation stuff with attachment and the multiple attachment styles. That comes later in human development. We can explain the meta-analyses here. Basically, this is just evidence. Look, insecure attachment is linked. Again, why? And the whys, we throw this back to the students. And the best case study I could find was Mark Johnson. There's a short Wikipedia article that summarizes his book. And I just want the students here to try to put this into a real life context. Imagine what this looks like in the real world when you've got, frankly, terrible parents and you don't have a good relationship with them, and he ends up becoming a heroin addict, and go, okay, well, what are the possible mechanisms by which that could have happened? And we could, explain it using insecure attachment. Share some ideas. Again, just getting them to do some of the thinking. They can read the explanations in the book. I've got the chalk talk slides here if you like, related to attachment and oxytocin as well. And you've got the notes. Always like to try to figure out, I'm putting the notes here at the end of these lessons, and I know what will happen is it does get a little bit tedious where we're kind of ending the same way every time. And I used to find that they're kind of almost like placeholders, and ideally the students are producing enough throughout the class that we don't really need them here. I don't need to do the formative check at the end of this lesson, but the notes are just there. Again, one important function for exam review later in the course. Oh, I need to add the image. I came up with a really cool image for this one. I didn't come up with it. ChatGPT made Mr. Dixon versus ChatGPT. By the way, you're welcome to, of course, take this idea and make it your own and be, Miss Gonzalez versus ChatGPT or whatever you like. So it basically, I wrote an applied short answer and to the same question, and then I got ChatGPT to do the same one, and I didn't read ChatGPT's before I wrote mine, and they're actually kind of similar. The first sentences are identical, which means I write like a robot. How boring. But just, I find this is a little bit more interesting than to get students to compare answers than getting them to mark old essays. So that's the homework. Right, coming up, social learning.